What's up, Internet? You're tuning in episode 88 of the Steam Deck Podcast, Flip Screen Games' weekly gaming podcast, all about Valve's portable PC powerhouse, the Steam Deck. I'm your host, Pete and Bessie, joined today by my very good friends and co-hosts, Mr. Stephen Radford.
Hello, hello.
Mr. Max Wright.
Ahoy, ahoy.
And joining us for the first time is Ben. And Ben, you're going to have to help me on the last name here. Is it Congleton?
Congleton.
Congleton. See, that sounds more British. I hit it like you were like you came from the Transformers planet.
No, you say it like Americans say Buckingham, you know?
Buckingham. Yeah.
Congleton.
Congletron. No, okay.
Some people put a little continental flavor to it. Some people say Congleton. And
like the Italian. So
yeah. So you
gotta
do what you like.
Do the manja hand effect while you're saying it. Yeah. Anyway, Benji Kong is how I know you of the crossplay.
Yes.
So welcome to the show, man. Thanks for coming on.
No, thanks. I'm big fan of the show. A recent fan, to be completely transparent with you, but a big fan nonetheless.
Hey,
so,
that's all that matters.
Pleasure. Yes.
So, and the reason that you are a recent listener is because you have joined the Steam Deck Army just recently, and of course, you are famously a console player, have not had a long-standing relationship with PC, and now you've kind of are getting your first taste of the Steam ecosystem with the Steam Deck. So, we wanted to have you on to talk about your experiences so far and kind of pick your brain a little bit about how you're getting on with the deck. But before we do that, why don't we just throw to you so you can let people know who you are, what you do, where they can find all your work.
Yeah, sure. So, I know you guys via Max, basically. So Max and I have podcasted together many, many times on the Cross Players, which is basically saying a podcast network always sounds very wanky.
It's what we do, yeah.
You get it. So it's basically, it's that. We've got a bunch of different shows at the moment. We've got two that are putting out content are sort of Nintendo focused. So that's called NX, and that is just a kind of fortnightly or bi-weekly, depending on where you're from in the world, Nintendo focused podcast. And we've also got a PSVR 2 focused podcast called Cross Button VR, which is, that is slim pickings for content at the moment. Trying to find stuff to talk about. It's why I'm here.
You must have cornered the market on that podcast, right? Like you got to be the only PSVR 2 show.
There's not many of us about, so it does quite well. But even still, we are kind of introducing more Quest 3 content as well, because we're going to have to diversify a little bit.
Yeah, we got to find something to talk about.
Barren wasteland. Yeah. But yeah, even still, so if any of your listeners are on the lookout for some PSVR 2 content or some extra Nintendo content, because I know you guys do an excellent Nintendo show as well.
Yeah, we'll have links to it all down below. Make sure you go check it out and give Ben a follow. So let's talk Steam Deck, because I'm fascinated with. You have two Steam Decks already, which I love, because you've gone from 0 to 100 here, right? No real history with PC gaming, more of a console guy. Now you've already got two handheld PCs in your house. So tell us a little bit about your history with PC. What has it been that's kind of put you off from it in the past, and what about the Steam Deck made you want to pick not just one up, but two now?
Yeah, so to clarify, obviously, I've got a PSVR 2, so I am partial to just buying any old shit. But the second one, and I've got to say this quietly, the second one is for my son. It's for his birthday. So
Ooh.
It's not technically, it's not for me, but he liked mine so much that, I thought I'd get him one.
That's exciting.
Yeah, he'll be happy.
How old are you going to be again?
28. Yeah. 11.
Okay.
So yeah, I've just never really been into the whole. I've always been put off by like keyboard and mouse to start with. I've always liked just the simplicity of consoles. Just fire it up, play a game, easy. And I don't have to think about it. I don't have to tinker with any settings. Mm-hmm. Just get in there, play what I want to play. And that's become, even more prevalent since becoming a dad.
Yeah,
and
of course.
Having less time and just being like, right, I've got half an hour to actually do something I enjoy. So I don't want to spend my time installing drivers or doing whatever else. I just wouldn't
Oh,
get
I've
in.
got to reseat my RAM to play this game. Oh no.
Exactly. So that's always been the kind of stuff that's put me off. It's just the practicalities of it, and not being interested in it.
Did you have anything in your Steam library already, or was this like the first time completely fresh?
So I installed Steam for the first time when Loop Hero came out a couple of years ago.
Okay, yeah.
Because I kind of saw that and I was like, that looks like a me game, but it was only available on Steam to start with. So I just had it on my old crappy MacBook and ran it off that, and it ran fine. It's Loop Hero. It's not the most taxing game. But that was it. Like, I think I got Loop Hero and then I got Vampire Survivors when it came out, and that was the extent of my Steam library up until.
I gotta say
That's
that shows a ton of restraint, because I feel like every person that, like, I've heard this story so many times where it's like, oh, I never play on PC, but like I have like 100 Steam games for some reason. I'm always buying stuff on the Steam sale, but I never play anything. So the fact that you have 2 games, that's probably a rarity.
Yeah, it probably is, and I just always been a bit kind of not anti. I've always, and Max will know this. I've jokingly played the heel of being anti-PC almost. Like,
oh, I get that. Yeah, I do the same thing.
Yeah, because it's funny, right? And
people get passionate when you said it. It felt like it comes from a place of
you've got to sell it,
Yeah, that's true.
You can't break.
But yeah,
it's wrestling.
I am amazed though on that the whole library point. How quickly since getting the deck, my library has now just ballooned.
Do you have like a rough idea of how many games you have?
I think there's about. So I do the whole family thing now with a friend of mine, and between us, I think we've got like 100 games.
Wow, okay.
Nice.
In a couple of months.
Well, he's had his deck for a little bit longer, so he's accumulated a lot of them. But I think I've probably bought, I don't know, 20, 25 games in the last
still
coming out,
weeks.
right? It's not like it's not all old stuff. There is stuff that's coming out now that you're probably wanting to pick up. I mean, I've been playing on PC since like 2000 and I don't know, whenever Minecraft first came out was when I first started playing on PC. Yeah. And I've got, hang on, let me double check, 591 games.
God damn.
Rookie numbers. You got to pump those up.
Yeah, 2009. No idea. I have genuinely no idea how many I've got in my Steam library. But like, I went through periods where I was playing on PC and not playing on PC. Like, I played Diablo back in the 90s on PC and Age of Empires, and then just didn't play anything on PC until 2005, and then stopped playing on PC again, and then came back. Ben, did you ever play like on PC when you were a kid or anything, or was it always console? Like, what's your kind of?
You didn't play RuneScape?
Always console.
That's
you're 10 years older.
That's probably to your benefit, honestly. As somebody who played RuneScape, you're probably better off not having had that experience.
We obviously had a PC in the house, just for doing homework, and Encarta, the encyclopedia thing. But that was it. And Championship Manager, like my dad would play that every night.
Nice.
That's PC gaming. That counts.
That was the
count
extent
those.
of it, basically.
Yeah, that was Dad though. Dad was the PC gamer.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Well, that one game that he played, for years.
Which is basically like spreadsheets. The game it's
like
barely a game.
Is this? Well, let me ask this real quick. This is a bit of a tangent, because we all know Steve's dad is a prolific gamer. But like, did any of you have like a friend's dad that like didn't play video games but had like Flight Simulator on his computer? Because I feel like that was a type of dad.
Yeah.
Like, I knew a lot of dads that had a flight stick and like were not playing video games.
My dad had a flight stick, like one of those Microsoft like Sidewinder things or whatever it was called.
So weird. Anyway,
a friend of mine's stepdad has. He has like he doesn't play PC games, but he's got a really good PC. He's got like 6 monitors. He's got all this stuff because he only plays Elite Dangerous. But he plays Elite Dangerous like it's a real simulator. He's got like all the bits.
That's so funny.
Multiple screens doing different things. Screen specifically for this, and he just runs it all on that. That's the game. That
getting 6 screens is like a dream for me. It's like I want to have that. Like, was that Minority Report? I don't remember, but like I want to insert myself in like a wall of screens.
That's VR. Let's not get too deep into that, because I'm giving Ben credit for VR there.
I was going to say, Max, you should get your friend onto Ben and like get him hooked up with like a VR headset for Elite Dangerous, because you only 6 displays then you can just move your head and look around.
All right, let's get back to the deck of it all, because I wanna ask Ben, what was What was the thing that motivated you to pick up a Steam Deck then, right? Like, you're not somebody who's been in on PC. What was it that led you to take the plunge?
Yeah, good question. So, in fact, I think when it was initially announced, I think I was the first one out of our whole group that pre-ordered one initially. Cold feet, and was like, I've only got 2 games in my library. Kind of wanted to see how it panned out a little bit. But the main, I guess the main reason, there's several reasons. Since the Switch came out, that's reignited my passion for gaming in the first place. What's going on with my computer here? Sorry. And I just realized I'm predominantly like a handheld gamer, basically. Like that's how I play 95% of the time.
That's how,
and I'll sometimes even shoot.
So I was going to say, that's how the crossplay started,
Sorry,
right?
go
It was
on,
Switch Island. It was you guys were all playing
Yeah.
Nintendo Switches. You wanted to get together and sort of talk about your Nintendo Switch. Where was the platform? You made it yourself, and since then, you've had peaks and troughs with the Switch or with other systems. But you've got your PS5. You've gone up and done the cross button, and now.
Yeah, but even with the PS5, since the Portal came out, I have barely played the PS5 on my TV. Because
have you tried
playing handheld?
Have you tried remote play on the Steam Deck at all, or is the Portal kind of filling that hole for you?
I like the Portal because it feels like you're playing on the PlayStation. So my issue with, I've always quite enjoyed remote play anyway, and I had a Backbone prior to the Portal, and that was fine. But it always felt like a bit, this doesn't feel like a PlayStation. Feels a bit gimpy and a bit cheap. And the Portal, although it is a really niche device, and the Steam Deck can do that and more, and as Max told me relentlessly when I first got the Portal, I just it feels like you're playing on a PS5. It's got the same haptics, it's got the same feel, it's got the same button placement, everything else. So it's a silly thing, but it's a nice thing to have.
It's funny because, like, I'll tell you, Ben, like when we first reported on that, I took a lot of heat from our audience for saying, like, this is, like, maybe this isn't for us, right? But this product exists for somebody, and I could see why maybe a Steam Deck is too much of an investment if you're only going to use it for this thing or whatever. And like, I think that's borne fruit, right? Like, I think, like, you see how popular it is, the fact that it's always selling out or whatever. And like, we had a review up on our channel where we had one of our longtime friends of the show, Zaid, go and check it out, and he did a comparison of the Portal versus streaming to the Deck, and it's like, you get a better performance on the Portal. Is that worth $200? I guess that's up to you, right? But like, I'm interested to hear that you still feel that way, even though you have this other device that you could seemingly do it all in one, right?
Yeah, I like just having a dedicated device to do certain things rather than a jack of all trades.
Yeah, I think Dan said that on one of the cross players we were talking about. You guys were talking about something, and Dan said, like, it's worth, if it does one thing but it does that thing really well, makes it worth it as a product. Like, it doesn't need to do everything. Even though the Steam Deck can do it, there are caveats to that. Like you say, the haptics, the triggers aren't the same, yada yada.
I kind of agree with that, because that's the reason I keep a Kindle around. It's like, it does one thing really well, and it reads books, and I can avoid all the distractions that comes with reading a book on my phone. So I guess the Portal's kind of similar in that
think
regard.
about a tablet, right? Like,
on.
What does a tablet do that your phone or your laptop or your PC or whatever can't do? Nothing, right? But it's like, it's convenient to do certain things on it, and it's like, I read this article years ago when the tablet was still fairly new technology that was comparing it to like a microwave oven, and it's like, no one needs a microwave. Microwaves don't do anything that any other device can't do, but it does them faster, or it does them more convenient, or it makes certain things convenient enough that it carved out a niche for itself. And I think that's kind of what that device is, and it's like, if you fit in that very specific camp, great. But if not, then it's not for you. Don't buy it.
Yeah. Get a Portal, get an air fryer, you're sorted. That's all you need.
So no, go ahead, Steve.
I was saying, Ben, you mentioned the Switch. How have you found that the Deck has, like, eaten into your Switch playtime? Are you picking that thing up? How do you like the Deck in comparison to the Switch? Because I think here we love the ergonomics of the Deck, but there's no denying that the Switch has, like, its pros. Like it's definitely a much lighter device, and obviously you've got the Joy-Con there.
Yeah, it has eaten into my Switch time quite considerably because I've always Switch for me has been obviously a first party Nintendo machine, but also an indie machine as well.
Yeah, of
And
course.
I probably spend a great bulk of my time playing indies, and now, you know, to get them day one much sooner, generally much cheaper on Steam, it's kind of so it's cut into the Switch time quite significantly. Obviously, it's the new shiny device that I've got, so it's bound to do that anyway. And I'm sure when, you know, maybe when Thousand Year Door comes out next week, maybe I'll pick the Switch back up again. And it feels tiny in your hand compared to the Steam Deck. I'm going from one to the other. It's like, wow, the Switch always felt really bulky compared to a Switch Lite, but now picking up the Switch after the Steam Deck, it's like, this is a child's toy.
It makes you realize how nuts it is that like it's as tiny as it is and as light as it is, but it still has as much power that it does. You know,
when I first picked up a Steam Deck, because I was, you know, I wasn't probably as quick as Ben, but I was very early to pre-order the Steam Deck, and then when we were coming up to sort of like the time of buying it, I was like, I don't think I'm going to get it. Like this just isn't doing it for me. And someone at work had one. I was like, it's too big, it's too bulky. Like I just don't see this being for me. Obviously, I'm an idiot. When I first started playing with the Steam Deck, I was like, this is too big. It's too like, how am I supposed to use this? Now I go back to the Switch. I'm like, this is too small. This isn't as comfortable.
Honestly, it's the sticks. It's the sticks for me when I go back to the Switch that they're not the full size ones, and I'm just like, these feel weird. They feel off. Some are a little bit strange.
It's the flat back as
flat
well.
back,
to
hold on to.
You need something to grip onto, you know. And
which deck did you get, Ben? And like, which Switch do you have? Do you have the OLED models of both?
How many? Sorry,
Yeah,
list
I've
all the
got
Switches,
both.
please, Ben. Don't just say one of them.
No. I'm going to seem like an absolute weirdo, but no. So I've got.
You're in good company. Don't worry. All right, we're all absolute weirdos.
Yeah, it's fine. We're all nerds here. Yeah, and I've got, you know, a Switch Lite or two, and so I got the what was it? The OLED. It was the 500 gig one, the middle one.
Gotcha.
Basically.
The best one,
Yeah,
personally.
yeah.
I think so. Yeah, with the
that-
glossy
yeah.
screen, not the matte screen, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I thought that's probably, you know, enough for me. As I said, most of my game playing will probably be indies rather than anything AAA that's going to take up a bunch of space. So
let me. I want to. We have
was enough storage for me as well.
We got a question from the Discord I want to pull in there. Oods over on our Discord wrote in and said, I found myself playing more cheap, smaller games on the Steam Deck than I expected to. Coming over from Xbox only, I expected to play the Sony titles along with some old school strategy games, and I've done neither so far. So it'll be interesting to hear what types of games Ben is picking up on deck. So I was interested, like when you grabbed the deck, was the intention, I want this to be an indie machine? Did you think you were going to use it for more AAA gaming? Like, how did you envision using it? And then how did you actually end up using it?
So I envisaged using it as a indie / retro kind of emulation device as well, because that was the thing. I ended up randomly on the portal, not to go back to that again, but I ended up playing through Sonic Origins. I just thought, I'll go back to those. I've always thought Sonic games are rubbish, but I'll give it a try. It's got some nice new. Well, I actually really enjoyed it, and it made me think, I should go back and play some more retro games. What's a convenient way to do that on a handheld device? Oh, a Steam Deck. So once I figured out how to actually get EmuDeck up and running and get everything installed that I needed to do. I had it for that, but I've mostly been playing indies because that's kind of the thing. And we've had such a good run of indies coming out over the last 2 weeks. It feels like
it's been a hell of a year
my
for
timing
indie
for
games.
getting a deck has been spot on. Like, I think within a week of me getting it, Hades 2
perfect time.
came out, and I was like, amazing, because that's like one of my favorite games. But yeah,
Hades is the reason we're friends.
Max put me onto
just
basically,
a
mutual love of that. But yeah, Deep Rock Galactic Survivor, really enjoyed that. Mini Shoot Adventures was brilliant as well.
Enjoyed that one.
And obviously, and then more recently, I've been playing Crypt Master, which is
cool.
like exclusive to Steam, so you can't get that anywhere else. And
that's the game
just
from
such an
earlier
awesome,
that you were
awesome
showing me,
game.
but you wouldn't tell me what it was. What's Crypt Master Ben? Just give us a quick for those of us who don't know but want to know.
So it's a kind of dungeon crawling typing game. So you do all of your battling, all of your opening chests and stuff. You're basically playing Hangman, but in a dungeon crawling sort of format. Cool. And it's funny. The writing is very funny. And yeah, it's just not something that you can get anywhere else apart from Steam. And in fact, they even say you're better off playing it with a mouse and keyboard. And I was like, I'm not quite ready to go to that level yet. I'll play it on my Steam Deck.
You have the trackpads.
Because I've spent my whole... Exactly. I've spent my whole gaming life with tiny little virtual keyboards on screen and having to move from letter to letter. So to me, it's like, yeah, this is fine. This is fine. And yeah, it's a cool game. But yeah, stuff like that, really. That's
have you ever
stuck into mostly?
Have you ever docked your Steam Deck and like plugged in a mouse and keyboard, like when you were setting up Emulation or anything? Did you ever think, oh, this would be so much easier navigating desktop mode with a mouse and a proper keyboard or anything?
Yeah, so I have docked it a couple of times, and I hooked it up for the TV when Hades 2 first came out as well. I was like, I want to have my first session on this on a big OLED screen, and that was nice. But yeah, so I've done a bit of that, but for the most part, just I think going back to commuting after like post-pandemic has also had it's also contributed to me investing in it, because I'm like,
sure,
obviously I can't take the Portal on the tube because that would be pointless. So
stare at your reflection for a couple of hours. That sounds.
Oh, lovely, feels nice.
Oh, you can connect to the Wi-Fi as you pull into a station for 2 minutes. You know.
Yeah, you can. So yeah, loads of reasons. I think the main one is though just handheld gaming is just my preference, and indies are mostly what I play. So those two things combined, really.
So you talked about one of your kind of desires for it was turning it into an emulation station. I'm interested in that. So I'm guessing you probably used EmuDeck. As someone who doesn't have the kind of background in PC gaming, right, and like in kind of setting things up and finagling with settings and all that stuff, like how have you found kind of that process of like getting your Steam Deck, set up? And then like getting to a point where you can do all the things you wanted to do on it.
Yeah, I wouldn't. There was a bit of friction there. I spent probably a good day getting it set up. So getting Game Pass working on it, and then getting EmuDeck working, and then I think the trickiest one for me was trying to get Saturn games running, because you had to get BIOS file and put that in the right place and everything else. And that's where I started going,
you must be the only person I've ever spoken to that wanted to get a Sega Saturn emulator running.
You need it for the PlayStation 1 as well, which has good games. Come on.
The Saturn is I had one as a kid, so that kind of there's a bit of nostalgia there.
Yeah.
Have I played it since spending half a day installing it? Fuck no.
That's the Steam Deck experience. He's finally a deckhead. He knows what he's doing.
And I knew what I was getting into.
You text me like the day of, like, when you were doing that, and you're like, I've wiped everything, I've fucked it all up, and I was like, all right, cool. And then the next day I was like, you sent me a picture of you finally got it working. I was like, that's the first thing you've played on this, isn't it? And you're like, yeah, that's it. 2 days, and you finally got to play one game.
Yeah.
This is the PC gaming experience,
This is what I was afraid of, but I do think I was in the mood for like tinkering with stuff. So everything just came together. It was like the perfect storm of, okay, I actually feel like getting under the hood of something and learning this sort of stuff. And it just came along at the right time. Really.
That's like was very much my experience. It was like when I first got it, I spent maybe a week of like, oh, I'm gonna try this and try this thing and then I'm like, all right, it's set up. I don't want to touch it again.
That was the thing that like brought you to the deck, though, wasn't it, Pete? Like I remember. So I pre-ordered mine, and Pete thought I was like off my head. He was like, "Why are you ordering that? You don't even play PC games. What are you doing?" And then I got it, and I showed him like EmuDeck and like what you could do on it and stuff, and he was sold immediately.
Dude, I don't know that there's a thing I've been more publicly wrong about, right? I'm like, like this is gonna be a Steam machine thing all over again. What are they? What are you doing? What are you doing? And then it was like we talked about it for like 2 or 3 weeks in a row, and I was like, oh man, like I gotta get one of these. And Mango from our community, who's like one of our oldest members, community manager, and like came through and was like, "Hey, I have a pre-order and I can't use it. Do you want it?" And I like just jumped the line by like months and months while everybody else is like counting the days and doing that bullshit Reddit stuff to like figure out when it was gonna ship. And I was like, I already had it in my hands. I felt like such an asshole.
I remember when mine was delivered because I was in London with you, Ben, at EGX, and I was bladdered by that point, and I was hyped up and excited, and then I got the notification, and I was like, I need to dip out of here as soon as I possibly can and get back and set this up.
And you did. You just
went, what happened?
Later
there
losers, and just went.
Yeah, well, yeah, we spent a little bit of time walking around London aimlessly first, and then I was just like, nah, I'm going.
It's so funny. I remember, like, I think I wasn't sure if it was going to line up with when I was going to, like, I had, like, a vacation coming up or something, and I got it sent to my...
It was your honeymoon, wasn't it? Or was it a vacation?
No, it was a vacation because my honeymoon would have happened...
The honeymoon was after, so I had mine by that point because I covered the show.
Yeah, you're right.
Oh,
so I
got mine later.
I would have had mine for months at that point. No, because I was still planning the wedding because I remember being like, Sarah, is it okay if I spend way too much money on this thing for the show? And
I justified mine because I just quit my job to try and go freelance, which blew up in my face a week later. And I was like, for content, I'm going to spend £500 on this device, and then a week later, the website that I was supposed to write for shut down, and I was like, well, okay, am I going to keep this? Am I going to sell this? But I'm glad I kept it.
See, the reason I keep so many handheld devices around is I never have to explain when I get a new one because nobody knows.
Blends in.
That's so smart.
He's just,
diabolical.
He's playing on his Switch again.
Yeah,
not really.
I put a big case on my Switch.
Yeah. Literally, nobody said anything apart from my son, who's obviously getting one.
Yeah. How have you? I guess now you're bribing his silence. You're buying his silence with his own one. So
yeah,
that's great. That's
perfect
great.
crime.
What is he excited about playing on the deck? Do you know?
Gary's mod predominantly.
Okay.
Wow.
Oh my god, yo, your kid's a G.
yeah.
That's still a thing.
28. No, apparently so. Yeah.
Wow.
He's got a friend that played it, and he was like, "Yeah, I want to. How can I play that?" And he hasn't got anything that he can play it on. So I thought,
yeah.
Frankly, even if for a 28-year-old being excited to play Gary's mod is probably like a little like you're still a hipster, you know. For being 11, it's like, damn, all right, like. It's like I gotta jump on and body a bunch of 50-year-olds who can barely play anymore.
That's not your eldest, is it, Ben? You've got an older son, right?
Yeah, he's my eldest. Yeah.
Oh, he's your eldest. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
He's just very tall, right?
No. His younger brother is almost as tall as him. So
okay, that's what I'm thinking of then. Yeah.
Trying to dox him or something, Max?
No. I was just trying to see if he was, if he was interested.
Exactly
in that
how tall is he?
What is his school timetable?
28, 6'2".
Yeah. Stop asking for pictures, Max. It's weird.
So, one of the other questions I wanted to ask is, have there been any like obvious pros or cons that you've clocked aside from, I guess, like the earlier access to indies like you talked about? Is that kind of been the main thing that's got you playing more on it? Is it like, you know, are there other kind of quality of life things that you're finding yourself enjoying?
Purely aesthetic thing, but the little startup movies when you wake it up.
Yeah.
You found somewhere to spend your points on.
Yeah. I've still got like 70,000 left for some reason.
Well, you would have to buy 2 Steam Decks. Yeah, you're never gonna get through them.
Rolling useless points.
Man, I gotta
cool.
tell you, I would take a return on those of like 1,000 for a penny. You know, it's like, dude, I got so many of these. Like,
absolutely.
No, because what if they make more I don't want to run out of background of loading screens. You know, I'm glad the Hades one has finally come back around to me, and now I'm excited about it again. You know.
Yeah, that's true. The downside, the only negative I've got is, and this leads on from the whole waking it up thing, but Bluetooth waking it up from sleep. I get that that's a really convenient thing if it's docked and you're using a Bluetooth controller. That must be amazing. But I've had mine in my backpack. I've put my Bluetooth earphones in. and then all I hear is my Hades startup screen, and then whatever game I've just been playing.
So in 3.6, if you're on the preview channel, there's actually a way now to select which devices you want to be able to remote wake it. So you can probably turn your headphones off from doing it. I've actually never, ever, ever, and I don't think you have either, Max or Pete, been able to wake my Steam Deck up with Bluetooth.
Absolutely
it just has not worked.
They've been telling us you can do it. I'm like, I don't know that you can. I don't know that it works that way.
I woke it up once when I was on the beta channel with my Xbox controller. I have since not been able to do it. I'm now on the preview channel, still won't work. However, when I paired up my Wii U Pro controller to it once just to see if the sticks, if it was like a good Steam Deck controller, it wasn't. And I sold it recently, but as I was putting it in my bag, my Steam Deck turned on, and I was like, "What?" That somehow woke up. The Wii U Pro controller can wake up the Steam
And
Deck.
then you're like,
the
"Should have
Xbox
kept it
Series
around."
controller can't do it. And I've updated it; it just doesn't work. So
Yeah, I've
tell
not
you
been
what
able
is
to do it
good
with
to-
the PlayStation 1 either. I've not been able to
Have
boot
you-
up with that.
Any of you guys tried the Stadia controller with it?
No, I've been
No,
trying to
that
get a
seems to work
hold of
really well.
one, but they've gone up in price now that
Really?
they turned on the Bluetooth mode.
Do you want to
I
buy
wish I'd bought one. Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
one? No, it works really well, and it's actually a really good controller. That was the one good thing to come out of the whole Stadia debacle was that controller. So
I thought about
kinda
getting
works
one when
really
they were like, "We'll give you one for like $1."
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was like, "For what?" You know. Now I should have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a guy I used to work with who bought like 16 of them at one point because he was going to go back home to wherever he lived, Romania, somewhere like that, and sell them all for a profit. And then like 2 weeks later, they were like, "Yeah, we're shutting down." And he was like,
Oh.
"That's why they were so cheap." And what I should have done there is offered to take one off of his hands at that price because I didn't think that I would ever want one, but
No.
you know, it is sort of a nice looking.
We're sickos. That's the thing. You're a sick person, so you want one. That's the answer.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
I keep looking at the Steam controller, even though it looks fucking awful to use. I know Steve's
It's
probably got
awful.
problems with me
No, you
saying
don't
that.
want one. What we want is a
Yeah.
sequel to the
Let me
Steam
tell you.
controller because the
Let me
original
tell you,
Steam
though.
controller is terrible.
It's not terrible for navigating desktop mode. It does a fine job for that. And I found that the times I've wanted to dip into desktop mode when I'm on my couch, it's been great for that because it's got trackpads and you can use the triggers as mouse buttons. So for that purpose, it's really good and I highly recommend it. But for playing games, I never touch it unless they are those indie games that don't have controller mappings at all and really requires a mouse because it does not know what a stick is. So those are the only times I've ever used the Steam controller.
All right, so I've got a couple more questions from the community here I want to jump into in just a second. But before we do that, let me remind you that this episode of the Steam Deck Podcast is brought to you by our Patreon producers for the month of May. They are, of course, Arnold J. Rimmer, Christopher Valens, Gabriel Hasselmeyer, a.k.a. Sobe, Snackago, Steve Stompy, Susan Likes Cats and Also Boobies, Ty the Dude, Voodoo Vic, and Wakahula. Thank you all so much for your support over on patreon.com/flipscreengames. You're all the realest of the real, and we greatly appreciate your support of this and all of our sister shows. Remember, if you want to become a supporter just like they did, if you want to get the show early over on Patreon, if you want to write into the show just like everybody did this week, or you want to check out our sister shows, or you want to join the Discord and keep the conversation rolling between episodes, you can do all that and much more by heading over to our website, flipscreen.games. However you choose to get involved, that's the best place for you to go. Head over there, click on some stuff. Whatever you choose to do, it helps us out a lot, and we thank you for tuning into the show and getting involved. So,
Deep breath.
So, we got a question here from Matt over on the Discord who wrote in and said, how does he handle the nuance of customizing games and settings on the deck? Even though the Steam Deck presents itself with a very console-like experience, when it comes to setting up emulators and customizing the deck in general, there is a varied learning curve when it comes that comes from playing on PC. Excuse me. Is that something that you've run into much? Because I know you said you're playing a lot of indie titles, and I feel like generally that's a little bit more forgiving, right? It's a little bit easier to just kind of like jump into a base setting and it's running on high. It looks great, you know?
Yeah.
Is that something you've run into
so
at all, though?
Not really. I think I've played around with so like Deep Rock Galactic Survivor seems to churn through battery. I don't know if you found that, Max, as well, but
Which one, sorry?
Deep Rock Galactic.
Galactic Survivor.
Oh yeah, it can do, yeah.
And so I'm kind of like, I could probably drop the frame rate down on that, see if I can, turn the brightness down. And that's the only one where I've actually thought about changing anything at all, I think. And then just remapping some stuff in like controller wise.
Now that is something you don't really get to that depth on console is like the ability
Yeah.
to map anything to anywhere. Download. Have you downloaded any other players' control schemes yet? Because that is a fantastic use case.
Yes. So I did that for Wind Waker HD. I downloaded a community layout for that.
Just works.
And that it does just work, but that I did have some issues with that because it kept defaulting to the gamepad, and I wanted it to default to the Pro controller, so I had to kind of mess around with that a little bit.
Yeah, that is a problem with the Wii U one. Yeah, because
Yeah,
if you try and make it a Pro controller, it says there's no gamepad detected or something like that. It just stops you
Yeah.
being able to play it. Is that right?
Yeah. So that was a bit, but I got it working eventually. Never played the game again, obviously. That's the Steam Deck experience. And one thing I have done, which I found really cool, is using those back paddles as just like capture buttons. So like remapping controls, like I'll be in a game, and rather than trying to remember the combination, I think it's like the Steam button and then R1 or whatever it is. Just having it mapped to L4 or R4 is really handy.
Interesting. Yeah, I never thought to do that. I always use it as like an in-game thing, like reloading or something when I'm playing a game, or crouch. I always use it for crouch rather than the sticks.
It's so funny.
I find it's just much easier.
I never use back paddles because it's like, you were saying earlier, Ben, right? Like you're so conditioned to what's familiar, right? That it's just like I never think to use buttons on the back of the controller, right? Because it's like that's not a thing, and it's like I'm so much more inclined to just adjust the layout so that I'm comfortable using the standard face buttons on R1 and the sticks, right?
Yeah, exactly.
See, I'm the opposite. I got so accustomed to the back buttons, I was looking at buying an Xbox Elite controller because I was like, I miss them when I go and play something else.
Yeah.
Wow.
Ben, you'll like this. When I played The Lost Crown, when you phase between the two dimensions and the blocks appear and reappear, you have to push in the right thumbstick.
Yeah,
that's a back button. Beautiful that.
That's
then when I then docked that and started playing it on my normal controller, I was like, well, how am I supposed to do this mission when I've got to, while aiming, push this button? It just doesn't make any sense. The best use case I have for those back buttons is on Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. To type in cheats on the PC version, you have to type in long, strings of numbers and letters or whatever. So what I did instead was map like R4 to be
a macro.
Type C. And then wait like half a second, type whatever the next letter is, wait half a second, and you can string 7 of them together.
That's really smart, dude.
It goes ding, 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 and then out it goes.
Very clever.
Wow.
Tank immediately.
Pete said we were all nerds. Crazy.
That's a special one, right? When you have a moment when you're among nerds and someone says some shit, where I'm like, wow, that's real dork hours. All right,
the coolest of all of us. Yeah, I guess you could do that for like Helldivers with the what are they called the
stratagems. Great shout.
I saw people talking about that because people were like putting them on stream decks and like setting up their macros so they could just like issue the commands and not have to like panic and like put in something while you're trying to survive.
Yeah,
is that cheating? That's a good question.
Probably, but
that's just playing smart.
No, that's. Although it is like having a controller with a turbo button, and I always used to get accused of cheating when I was a kid for the GameCube controller with the turbo button, because I'd use it on Mario Party on one of those ones where you had to like slam the A button really quickly. That definitely is cheating, but I always won and got the coins, so I was fine.
It's a really sad look into your childhood that you were the one that had the one with the turbo button on it. You had the third party.
I always went for that.
He wanted it so he could cheat
because I knew I would win.
I love that you're like, oh, I'll take this shitty. Like you're like acting like you're no problem. I'll
take the Mad Cat.
I'll use that one. And then
why did you open that story with "I was accused of" when it sounds like you were planning
I definitely was cheating. Yeah, I definitely was.
Allegedly.
Definitely was.
Speaking of cheating, though, well, might not be cheating, but I'm also using the back paddles on retro games for like rewind and fast forward.
Oh, sure.
And save states and stuff like that. So that's a really handy one rather
than
going into the menu to rewind or whatever, just having it.
I'd be nervous about that because what if I went to scratch my nose and then I accidentally leant too hard on one of the buttons and just like just loaded a previous save.
You got to have it not have the load save state, just the make save state.
Yeah. That's best.
Yeah, you have the load be like a macro, like you have to press a combination of buttons or something.
Yeah. But no, it's just that's a good idea. Customization is really good fun to get into that. So Yeah, and I'm sure there's loads of stuff that I haven't even got into yet that I'll find useful. So yeah, I'm actually enjoying that aspect of it where I thought it would be off-putting. It's actually pretty cool.
Nice. I'm glad.
Mm.
So you talked a little bit about your docked experience. What controller are you finding yourself using when you've docked it? Like, do you have a preference there?
So literally just the Stadia controller.
Oh, right. Duh.
I haven't docked it much, but that's what I've used
Nice.
when I have docked it. But yeah, I don't know. What do you guys use generally? Because I guess I know a few people use the DualSense.
So I use the DualSense because I've found it's the one that works the best. Like, I have had trouble with Xbox controllers specifically, where like when they work fine, but and Steve's nodding along because I think he's had this happen too, where it's like sometimes it just won't pair right, or like I've had it have problems where like I pair it and then it like will de-pair and it'll turn my Xbox on, and it just like.
Well, I really like the Xbox controller for that because there's a little trick that I think a lot of people don't know. If you double tap the sync button on the top, you can have it paired to multiple devices. So it's paired to my Xbox, and then I just double tap the button, and then it's paired to my Steam Deck, so I can.
I just find that it doesn't. I find that it doesn't switch between them as seamlessly as it should. You know, whereas like with the PlayStation controller, I've never had a problem where when I try to sync it, it immediately syncs and it doesn't ever disconnect.
It's syncing it back though, like it's a pain because you have to manually then sync that back to the PlayStation. I've only got one PS5 controller, so
I have
to
three,
manually sync that one back. Whereas on the Xbox, I just double tap.
I just have it where
I've got the Xbox Series, and on my PC I use the 2.4 gigahertz like dongle. So there's never a crossover. If I am, I'm going to go play on the PC now, I'll hold down the button and I'll double tap that, and then it pairs to my PC. And then if I sort of, hold it down again or double tap it again, it then looks for the Steam Deck. And I've never had that crossover.
That's nice.
It's looking for two different things, which is why I don't want to go Bluetooth on my PC. Or if I do, I'm not going to do it for the Xbox because I don't want to get into that confusion of, I'm now downstairs on the Steam Deck and it's trying to connect to the PC. Oh, I've got to turn this off or whatever.
Yeah. So that's why I've gone with the Stadia controller, because there's literally nothing else to pair it to. Because,
that is nice.
Stadia doesn't exist anymore. So
and
it's a good controller. Well built.
If they made a new Steam Deck controller, would you get it? If they made like a Steam Deck specific, it's like the old Steam controller, but it mimics the Steam Deck in all the buttons and all of the back buttons.
This guy owns a PSVR too. You think he's not buying a controller?
I stayed out of the how many dual sensors have you got conversation because I'm embarrassed at this
for a
stage.
reason. Sorry, you're among friends. You're among friends. I see. It wasn't on purpose though, right? It's like, I needed to buy the Spider-Man 2 one for the collector's sake, right? I didn't. I had no choice there. The pink one that I got, that one was just for style,
I got lovely.
It's good. It's nice.
And one of them started to drift, so I started using the other one, and that one started to drift. So now, if I'm playing the game and I don't want it to drift, I'll use one of them. But that one doesn't have a working touchpad, so if I need to use the touchpad for anything, like in God of War Ragnarok,
bro, what are you doing to these controllers?
Using them normally. I promise you, I'm using them normally, and they're just not They're not happy.
Like, what's going on? That you had your touchpad's broken? Like.
The touchpad is constantly pressed down in the middle, and if I
so wild.
Oh, Max was eating. He got some crumbs under there.
Right? It's like, bro, are you playing with dirty hands? Like, what are you doing to these things? I've never even heard of one person. You're the only person I've heard of, and I'm sure that you're not the only one. You're the only person I know that's expressed having the issue with drift on a DualSense, and you've had it twice.
Loads of people have. There's been people in the Discord talking about it.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I just don't remember. I have 3 of them and I've had no problem. It's like I can't believe
some people had drift after like 2 months on those things.
For what started as like when I first used the DualSense, I was like, oh, this is the best games controller I've ever used. I am now. This is the worst console of the generation for me, just because the Xbox Series X is so simple. The Switch Pro controller has such a decent battery life, and again, is so simple. That the DualSense has too many points of failure, too many things. The battery life is so low because of that I'm just like, yeah, it's really cool. It just annoys me too much to want to use it.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, I prefer the Xbox controller, I think, because I like the offset sticks. But the DualSense is like the PlayStation controller is just so familiar because it's been the same forever, basically. So yeah, the fact that that's the one that works the best with my Steam Deck anyway, like that's been my experience. I kind of just default for that.
I hooked my PS5 controller up to my PC recently, and the bar automatically syncs up with the rest of my RGB, which was
Oh
really
yeah,
nice.
that's nice.
Yeah, it was
That's
tasty.
cool. Very cool. So I'm imagining the answer is no to this one, but I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't ask. Have you tried any other like third-party launchers or anything? Like, have you tried getting anything from like the Epic Game Store running, or like anything from like GOG or something like that? Like maybe something from like itch.io or any of those kind of games?
No, I haven't ventured down that dark alley yet.
It is a
have
very dark alley, Ben.
Yeah, I've obviously I've listened to you guys talking about like Epic and getting that working and stuff, but yeah, I guess there hasn't been the need for it yet. There hasn't
Yeah.
been the draw. Like there was, I put Game Pass on it because I've got a Game Pass subscription, so I might as well have it available on the deck as well. I would love that if that came natively though. That would be. Really
Is that like your
nice
biggest thing? That's your biggest thing on your wish list for the Steam
It
Deck? Have you
probably
got a
would-
bit of a wish list?
That would probably be the top one because that would be like, right, well, I've got the Portal for PlayStation games, I've got the Switch for Nintendo games, and then the deck for Xbox and Steam, obviously. And that's everything I could ask for in a device. But do you think that's ever going to happen? It feels like the more like
No.
Xbox seems to be in complete disarray, the less likely it is. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I don't see a universe where it makes sense for both parties, because I think if Valve was like, hey, like you want to put a Game Pass app in Steam, I'm sure Xbox would be willing to do that, but I don't see how that benefits Valve, right? Because then it's like games that you would be paying for on Steam, you can play for free on Game Pass. Like, how are they getting a cut of that? Is that enough? I just don't see what value it really adds. One thing that Steve has brought up in the past that I could see maybe is, there's been that rumor going around this week that Xbox is considering like kind of making Game Pass more complicated and having like a tiering system, right? And I could see a future maybe where they have a version of Game Pass that is only first party stuff and it's not any of the partner stuff, and then it becomes a little bit simpler to like, okay, put it on Nintendo, put it on this, put it on that, and Steam takes
So then it becomes like a launcher, basically. Like you can only.
It works then exactly like EA Play does in Steam, where you can buy an EA Play subscription and you only get EA games, and you can get like certain benefits around it. Basically, you just get all the Microsoft games. It's maybe the Bethesda stuff and the Activision stuff would be lumped in with it as well.
I could see that, because then it's like, okay, Valve applies like the same 30% licensing fee they would for if those games were able to be on Steam naturally, and maybe that works out. But I think our better the better chance is that somebody finds some kind of like workaround, right, where you can get it running on Linux or something. Like, I think that's probably more likely than official support.
Just on the subject of Xbox, so I know you guys. I did watch a video that you did on it, Steve, which was what's the thing you use? Is it Greenlight?
Greenlight, yeah.
Do you find the performance on that is better than the official Xbox?
It's identical, really.
Okay.
But the kind of launcher itself is like a native application, so you can kind of navigate through it. But if you've got it already set up, all it does is it opens up a web browser and displays it, because it's all done through the web, so it's no real difference.
Okay, cool. Good to know.
But if you do have an Xbox in your house, then that's the way to go, I think.
How are you of course, because you can
just play remotely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Max?
How are you finding that, the sort of the streamed Game Pass through the deck? Because that was a big thing you said to me originally when you were like, oh, what should I get? I want to be able to play Game Pass. And I was like, you just, there is a way, but it's not a good way necessarily.
It's I mean, it seems to work fine. Like, once I figured out how to get the like scroll bar that's on the right hand side, which basically just is always there in Edge, so you have to kind of put a bit of code in to get rid of that, basically. And I was quite proud of myself that I managed to do that without breaking everything. So yeah, and what it just sort of melts away, or you forget that you're playing in a kind of gimped way, and it feels like a native experience when the stream holds up, obviously. But that's true of every streaming or cloud streaming game, isn't it? But yeah, happy with it. I think the problem is I'm not. When you first get something and you're just trying a bit of this, trying a bit of that, and I haven't got stuck into a Game Pass game yet. I played a bit of Another Crab's Treasure, and that was like an hour. I was like, okay, yeah, that works. On to the next thing.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found myself doing
when they
that
eventually release a good game, I will play something.
Hey, Senua's Sacrifice is out in 5 days, so maybe that's the one to dig into.
Who would know?
Maybe.
The marketing beat is going to start in apparently any day now, right? Any day they'll talk about the game.
Well, the marketing behind it has been amazing. That one tweet that was just like the name of the game and then the release date.
So sarcastic. It was clearly a response to people going like, "This game's out in 2 weeks," and they were like, "Oh, fine." But what about the team that have worked on that game? That all you're doing is, I don't know. It's
Yeah, that's a conversation for another podcast. You'll listen to the last 2 weeks of Flip Screen Games podcast here. It's like all about that. So the last kind of question I had for you is I guess kind of a broader one. How are you feeling about, I guess, PC gaming now in like a post Steam Deck world? Like, is this something that has kind of move the needle for you at all? Do you see yourself exploring like PC as a platform any more deeply, or is it kind of like the deck itself is the thing that actually makes you interested because you like handheld and you like console and you want that more plug and play experience?
Yeah, I think if I was a sensible, rational human being, I'd probably go, yeah, the deck is everything that I need, and I'll need to move on from that. But knowing myself and how the Switch was like a gateway drug to everything else, and then here I am with all the devices under the sun, I can certainly imagine going down that route at some stage. Certainly not anytime soon, I don't think. But yeah, all it will take is a game that comes along that's like, this can't run on Steam Deck, but it is the best thing in the world and it's only available on Steam. So what are you going to do? That ultimately will come down to where are the games that I want to play. So
yeah,
at the moment, I am satisfied, more than satisfied, over the moon.
Nice.
Excellent.
Well, I would love to have you back on in the future, man. Once you're a little deeper in your journey, we can hear about how your son's liking his deck and everything too.
Yeah, cool.
But yeah, thank you again for joining us, Ben. And why don't you remind the folks where they can find you?
Yeah, so yeah, you can find me on X or Twitter. Do you guys say Twitter or
we say Twitter?
Well, we argue over it.
Okay. I love the fact that they call it X, formerly Twitter.
Yeah, and the domain is still twitter.com. It's like, what are you doing?
Really effective branding. Really good.
Smart. Oh, amazing. Incredible. Talking about great marketing. But yeah, find me there at Benji Kong. I don't tweet much, but I'm there. And yeah, as I said at the top of the show, if you search for NX Nintendo in any podcast app or I nearly forgot the name of the PSVR 2 podcast or Cross Button VR. Search for the list, and that would be wonderful.
You can probably just search
PSVR 2. Call it the cross button? I've always called it the X button. I don't know about you.
They call it cross. That's the official name.
They call it cross button.
I know, but I've never called it cross.
Because it was the cross players.
Yeah,
we had to incorporate that into it. Yeah. So,
but do you actually call it cross? Like if you like press the cross button?
No,
nah.
For legal reasons, yes. But
it's like if you work at Nike in the shops, they make you say Nike. They force you to say Nike when no one else in the UK says Nike.
No, it's Nike.
It's not though. It's not Nike. It's Nike.
Oh God.
Take it out with an entire country, Pete.
I always do. Y'all are crazy. We invented the language. It's like that doesn't mean you can just say whatever you want.
I didn't invent the Greek goddess.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like that's
the Greek goddess Nike.
It's literally named after a thing. Oh my God. Ben, thank you for injecting a little bit of reason, because they like to like gaslight me. They're like, no, this is just how British people are. It's like, you're full of shit. You guys are messing with me.
Anytime.
I'll hold you to that. So make sure you go and give Ben and the Cross Players a follow. Up links to all that down below. Thank you again for joining us, Ben. Thank you, dear listener, for joining us here on another episode of the Steam Deck Podcast. Remember, if you want to go and show your support, if you want to write into the show, if you want to check out any of our sister shows, Join the Discord to keep the conversation rolling. All that and much, much more can be found at flipscreen.games. That's our website where you will find links to all the places we are, all over the web. However you choose to get involved or show your support, we thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Steam Deck Podcast. For the crew, I've been Pete, he's been Ben, he's been Max, he's been Steve. We'll see you next week.